Welcome to Storytelling. This week's guest is a senior pastor, speaker, and church leader with a passion for helping people discover their purpose and grow in their faith. As a senior pastor of a thriving multicultural church in East London, he has led its growth into a vibrant congregation of more than 500 people, while also planting churches across London and Birmingham and leading a wider network of churches. Alongside this, he is deeply committed to mentoring leaders, community outreach, and equipping others to make a lasting impact. In this episode, we explore his journey into ministry, the challenges and rewards of church leadership, and what it takes to lead a growing church with vision, faith, and purpose. Please welcome Pastor Peter Nembhard. Hello, Peter, and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, how you doing, David? You good?
Peter, after decades of leading people, building a church and walking with Christ, you've seen many expressions of leadership. If you had to separate great leadership from Christ-like leadership, what is the difference?
I think Christ-like leadership is great. So there's no difference whether it's great or not. But I think what the difference between secular leadership and Christ-like leadership is servant leadership. I believe that's what Jesus demonstrated and that's what he taught. He said if we're going to be great in the kingdom, we must be like a little child or we must be a servant. That the last thing he did was demonstrate that by washing his disciples' feet and said, what you see me doing now, you go and do. So servant leadership is the difference.
Looking back over your journey, what leadership lesson took you the longest to learn?
Oh, that's a really, really, really good question. I think dealing with conflict is the longest lesson that's taken me to learn, and I'm still learning it. Because I don't think it's my natural bent. I love people, but I think part of pastoral leadership is that you got to deal with conflict between people. And it's a bit I hate about leadership. And the other bit I think is long, but it's not the longest because conflict is long, but dealing with staff and managing staff. I think that one will take me forever. In fact, I don't want to do it.
What is it about conflict and managing staff that unnerves you?
I think they come hand in hand because staff bring conflict. I think when people are working as volunteers, they're happily doing it. But the moment you give them a contract, something changes in the dynamics of the relationship and it just brings an added element of conflict into it.
What is servant leadership, just for the audience, just for clarity?
Servant leadership is where you become second. I think if you look at the church, particularly the Black church traditionally, there's a great emphasis on power, position, where they sit, how they look, and they generally want to be first. And Jesus' teaching is that if you want to be first, you must be last and servant of all. So I think servant leadership means I think one author put like eat the elephant last. You eat last. You let others go first. You're serving others first. Others are better than you. You are not better than them. And when people come into your presence, they shouldn't feel worse. They should feel better because you're not talking down at them. So yeah, it's just how you're seeing people, how you're dealing with people, and how you're bringing up leadership in others. You're not trying to push yourself at the expense of them.
When you founded Ark Church, what was your vision at the time?
Ark started 29 years ago, so next year, March, will be 30 years. And I remember specifically the word that stood out strongly was the word holistic. So I knew that I wanted Ark to be an holistic church. However, at the time, it was not a word that was in my vocabulary. It wasn't a word I used or I knew. But I knew enough that it meant the whole person. So I knew that I didn't want a church that just ministered to the spiritual man. but the natural man. I knew I didn't want people to be in church Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I knew I wanted them to have time at home. I knew I didn't want them to be every bank holiday they're going to be in a convention. I knew I wanted them to have family time. I knew I wanted the children not to be tired on Monday when they go to school. I just wanted it to be balanced. So I knew when it started ARC, the picture I saw was a balanced church, which is not the type of church I came up in. I think it was overly spiritual, and the spiritual side took precedence, which it is important, but I think at the expense of the natural side of people. So I wanted to make sure people's careers, people's physical bodies, their family life, financial life, all of it was important.
So looking back, what decisions had the greatest impact on shaping ARC?
I think one of the major decisions that has happened. There's been loads of different twists and turns. I'll give you two. One, I think in 1999, I changed the name of the church. We started off as ARC, which meant Apostolic Revival Center. I went to Phoenix, Arizona. I went to a conference. I cried my eyes out as I saw a pattern of church I'd never seen before. I saw what they call the parade of ministries. I saw ministries for every single type of person. This particular church motto was look in the community, find a need, create a ministry, meet that need. So they had ministry for lap dancers, ministry for prostitutes, ministry for prisoners, drug addicts. So I said, I want this. I want the church to reflect community. So I changed the name of the church from Apostolic Revival Center to a radical church, both ARC, but it's a radical church. The radical meaning we're different. We're not like the others. We can be different. We can make changes. Second decision was 2005. One of our teenagers, who was 15 years old at the time, called Charlotte, got murdered by a 16-year-old girl. And at that time, I said to myself, I was going to quit pastoring and just do youth work and reach out for youth. I had got saved because my friend had got murdered and stabbed to death at 19. So at this stage, it's happened while I'm a pastor, and I thought, now I'm going to give up church, work with youth. And the Lord said, I don't need you to do that. You can make the church a youth-friendly church. So God said, you don't need to give up pastoring and go and reach youth. Just make the church youth-friendly. And that's what we began to do, make the church ARC youth-friendly. And now I believe we have about maybe 1,500 or more congregants across our branches. I would say probably 80% of those are youth. So we've definitely, over the years, our main thing is reaching young people.
I want to come back to, you said your main thing is reaching young people. How have you managed to attract young people and maintain their membership within the churches as well, at a time when other churches are struggling to attract and maintain young people?
I think it's one what the Lord said then. He said create an environment that youth like for the youth. So we create an environment I think that youth want. So I know today Gen Zs and millennials, they want vulnerability, they want transparency, they want honesty, they want big word authenticity. So I think those elements are key in our culture. Our theme is keeping it radical, keeping it simple, always keeping it real. I think the realness is very important for that demographic of people. I think also we use social media quite strongly. So Instagram, TikTok, yeah, we use those elements very strongly. And the other thing is young people like to be where other young people is. So what we post reflects our demographic. And I think when they see themselves, they come to that. And then when they come, what they see is what we said. So we're not going to advertise something we're not, because then that wouldn't make us authentic. So the authenticity is really key in terms of what we're promoting and what we're projecting. Sometimes social media can be very fake. So they push one thing. It's like a Caribbean restaurant when you go and they say we've got curry mutton, got rice and peas, and then you say, "Oh, can I have rice and peas? Me not have that. Can I have oxtail? Me not have that. Can I have dumpling? Me not have that." So I think what we say we've got it. If we ain't got it, we don't advertise it.
So the ARC has grown quite significantly over the years.
Yeah.
How have you managed to protect that original heart and culture of the church?
That's a really, really good question. I wouldn't say I protected it fully, but protected elements of it. I think it being the culture is the key. If you can protect the culture runs down the spine of the church. I think leadership models what you want to see. So rather than try and protect it in the whole church, if we make sure our leaders, particularly pastors, have the same DNA, then that's helpful. I think if our values and principles that we live by are biblical and not changing, then that's helpful. I think if there's things are changing, then it's easy to change your values. Our values should be built on the word, so that shouldn't be unchanging. I think one of the things I've given example of protection, children. When my mum used to take me and my sister to church, we used to cry. Every Sunday morning was a cry thing. It was horrible. Started at 12, finished at 7. Long, boring, horrible. And I remember there being adults in the ark that wanted to make, I think, it's my opinion here, I think they wanted the ark to be like very strict with children. These people are strict. So I think they want children to sit one place, not to run, not to, after service, I'm talking about, not to eat in the sanctuary, just a lot of rules. And I remember fighting these things. I always said to them, for Sunday morning, even the parents decide they're not going to church, the children will beg the parents to go to church because the children love being there. And that's always been the case. The kids love being there because they feel valued, they feel respected, I guess. And children, I think we think kids don't know about respect, but I think they can know when they're disrespected. I think making a place child friendly is important and they feel like they're wanted there. It's not a place where they feel like this is a place I'm going to leave when I get to 13, I'm gone, I'm off. But it's a place where they feel they can grow through the ages. So yeah, that's one of the areas of protection, the children.
So you've mentioned young children, you've mentioned young people, and you've mentioned that
Mm,
initial vision that you had for the church and how you've managed to
mm.
maintain it as the church grew. But was there ever a season where holding on to the vision required faith beyond what you could see?
All the time. But I must say, apart from the last 5 years, ministry has been pretty easy. God has been so good. He's been so faithful. He's done lots of great things. So just miracle after miracle, divine appointment after divine appointment. And I so when I say the last 5 years, that's more personal, like health things happening and just stuff going through. So that's what's required great faith for me. For me, not necessarily the church. I think where the faith is required, our thought really now for Art Global is to plant and to build healthy churches. So over the years, we've planted about 11 churches out of the one that we planted 30 years ago. And then we have also partner churches. So of the 11 that we planted, or four have left, so we've got seven left. And then we have partner churches, maybe four in England, 12 in Uganda. But all of these plants have come from me. And all of these partner churches, they're my friends. They've been my 30-year-old friends, long-term friends that I've had. So I feel like I've come to an end of that. I've trained up people to send out and plant with. Some of these churches I've planted have been friends. I've planted it. And all these partner churches have been friends. I've worn that out. So now it requires faith that this new generation of pastors are going to be the ones that's bringing in others, and Ark is gonna have more healthy churches in different cities. And it started. There is ones coming up in Birmingham, but that's not out of me. That's out of one of our other guys. So that's requiring faith.
You've been married 37 years
Yeah.
to your beautiful wife and have a wonderful family as well. So, what has marriage taught you about leadership, and how has your family helped shape the leader you've become?
I think your first church is your home.
Mm.
There's a scripture that said you can't lead the church unless you can lead your home. So I think the first place where my pastoring starts is with my own home. One of the qualifications of an elder is that his children are in submission. So I think if I can't manage my children, I can't manage the church. And I remember one time when one of my children went through something in church, I stepped myself down for 6 months so I could deal with her. People say you don't need to do that, but I thought I did because I wanted to make sure that was important. I think it's one of the qualifications of a pastor is that it's children. All right. I think with my wife, she's been brilliant through the years, but if she was a gossip and a horrible person, I don't think I could do church and pastoring because it wouldn't be congruent. It wouldn't be authentic. So she's been absolutely amazing. She's not the preacher out there on the stage. She's very much behind the scenes. She's always like that. She does what she does behind the scenes, very secure. So I think the family life of Caris with my wife has really been helpful. And my children, I guess not going way off course has been helpful because if they had, I would have had to step back from ministry. They're not all passionately zealous, preaching, doing stuff, but they each individually know God and love God in their own way. They're not completely all wonderful disciples, but they're not dramatic. So I think leading the family teaches you leadership, teaches you patience, teaches you love, sacrifice. And I want to make sure that I'm a good father. My dad's always been there, he's passed now. He's always there, but I don't think he was in my life. And so I just always wanted to be in my kids' life.
I think it's great that you talked about the fact that you wanted God in your children's lives and the fact that they really supported your journey as well. Have you had a mentor along your journey, someone who has helped to guide you?
I won't call it a mentor, but let me just say two things. My pastor, he had a motto, he's passed now, but his motto was, a wise man learns from his mistakes, but a wiser man learns from the mistakes of others. I'll never forget that because I said to myself, I'm going to learn from the mistakes of my pastor. So that's, I think, my pastor was a mentor in so many ways, but he was kind of like a reverse mentor in terms of how I wanted to be with my children. So I don't think he really did holidays with his children and stuff like that. So I wanted to make sure that I did. So my kids went on holidays. I wanted to make sure that I kept them away from ministry and being complete. So you wouldn't even know who my kids were. Even still today, someone just told me they found out who Naomi is because she's not trying to sit on the front seat. She's not trying to let everyone know. And that's how I wanted it, you know. And but that's reverse learning from my pastor. And then there was a guy in our church. I just loved how he was as a father. And I would always note and say to him and tell the church, I love how this guy is. So he was kind of like a unspoken mentor, someone I looked at. I thought, I like that. I like how he is with his boys. I like how he's raising his boys. Oh, and although I was pastoring, I still wanted to be like that. And anytime I remember going to Louisiana, and there was this man and his son, and it's just the way he was playing with his son. And I just remembered, I want to be like that with my boy. And there was a time I went to pick up my son from school, and I carried his bike while I was riding my bike. And a little boy was passing by, and he looked up and he said, I wish my dad would do that. And it just stuck out at me, and I said, that's it, that is it. I want to do with my kids what my dad didn't do to me, you know? And I would like other dads to be able to see what I do with my kids and say, I want to do that with my son or my daughter.
Peter, what leadership principle would you want every young pastor or leader to understand?
I think the principle of servant leadership, definitely. I definitely would want them to understand that leadership in the kingdom is servant leadership. I would like them to learn to lead without title and all these frillings that people think that they need to lead, that they don't necessarily need that. I've led for many years now. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it and you can have it, but I haven't had an office. It's not stopped me. I don't have any bishop's ring. It hasn't stopped me. People say, "Oh, when are you going to become a bishop? When are you going to?" And I say, "Well, I am a bishop." No, but you need to have the title bishop. I say, "But I do it." Bishop is a verb. It's not a noun. But but so it's a traditional thing, and I would like the young people to realize that they can lead, and they don't need these verbs to become nouns. They don't need special rings, special clothes, special seats. They can lead, they can become servant leaders. And I would like them to learn how to read and learn, and that they can grow as people and as leaders, and not to what they call in Jamaica follow fashion. That they can be creative leaders and they don't have to follow the trends of what everyone else is doing.
I think that's really important. And you created such an enthusiasm within your church. It's just nice to see young
Mm,
people just continue with that enthusiasm and, like you say, not follow fashion and not follow
yeah.
what everyone else is doing. As ARC continues to grow for another generation, what values must never be lost?
I think the values of biblical literacy, that the Bible defines leadership, the Bible defines what we do. I'd hope that we never lose our bibliocentricness. I'd hope that we never lose our love for people. And we work on three things. We work on our welcome, our worship, and our word. And I'd hope that those three things would always be something that's important to us as we go on. That when people come in, they feel welcomed, and we have a strong welcome team, and that the worship is always great for different people to be able to worship God, and the word is always rich, and the word of God. Those things I hope would never get lost. I hope that we would never lose our edge of evangelism and mission. The big principle that I hope we would never lose is generosity. I'd hate to know that to become a disingenuous church. Sometimes I go back and I go back to the organization I came up in or the church I came up in, or when I see it, and it just looks like a ghost town to how it was when I came up, and it really saddens my heart. And I think to myself, oh gosh, I hope art doesn't become this. I hope that we don't lose our edge and lose our who-ness. I think when I see a lot of our young leaders, so a lot of our pastors now are, I remember one time one of our leaders was like, oh, he feels like all the other leaders are older than him. And now it's reversed. All of our leaders are young leaders. They're 30, 30-something. So it gives me hope that that's the future. So I hope that they carry what I've shared with them, but then grow and add to that. Not throw it all out. Not, when I say don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, but they don't throw away everything, but they build on it.
Peter, what do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered as a good dad to my children. So to my kids, a little story. When my mum died 13 years ago, I went to the graveyard on Mother's Day. It is absolutely amazing in the graveyard on Mother's Day. Holy, it's another world. Young men, old people, whatever, doing picnics, just eating, lovely. And then I went a couple of years later on Father's Day, and it's not the same. So I said to my kids, I'm gonna make Father's Day change. You guys are coming to the graveyard on Father's Day because I want to be remembered as a great dad. So I think that's my first and foremost thing. For me, being remembered as a pastor who planted churches and my kids hate me would be disastrous. So that would be number one. And I would want to be, I think I will be remembered as a people person. So, and I do, I love people more than anything. And I think I want to finish strong because I think people more remember how you finished than how you started and what happened in the middle. So if at the end of your ministry you fall or you do something crazy, that's what you'll be remembered for. Oh, that's the guy that cheated on his wife, even though for 30 years you didn't, you know. That's the guy that stole the church money, even though 30 years you didn't. So I think finishing strong.
What does finishing strong look like?
You know, I'll give you an example who I think finished very strong. I don't think he's finished. He was finished, but I love what's happened. I love the fact that Miles Monroe died in a plane crash, and there's more coming out about his life and ministry now than when he was alive. I think it's an example of leadership. Like this guy, although he's dead, he's still speaking. He's speaking strong. His integrity is intact. To me, he finished strong. Even though he finished early, he finished strong. I think opposite to not finishing strong is to do something really reckless and unfruitful at the end of your ministry. Um, like I think, Hillsong, I'm using an example. Sorry, I'm using an example. Hillsong's a brilliant church, done great things over the years. But I think people are going to remember Brian for what's happened recently rather than what he's done over the years, unfortunately. So I think finishing strong mean finishing like I think Billy Graham, like he died with integrity. There's no one saying stuff, about his ministry in life that he did. And yeah, that's finishing strong.
I think that's a very important word, integrity, because it's
Yeah.
about doing the right thing even when no one is looking.
Yes. Yeah.
Peter, after all the years of ministry that you've done, if someone was to ask you what matters most in becoming a great leader, what would you tell them?
Not losing yourself in all the hype of becoming, inverted commas, a great leader. So I think if greatness is always servant and being last, then greatness shouldn't be you're on a throne now. Like, so I think if you lose yourself, you lose your values. What does it profit to gain the world and lose your soul? So I think keeping the element of you. I love people. So I'd hate for now, oh, I'm too big to be around people. I can't talk to Jane. I can't talk to John because I lead so many churches. And now I've got to have 15 phones. You can't have my phone number because I'm too important now for you to call my phone. I think I want to maintain and keep myself. Not saying for those who have 15 phones or two phones, that it's wrong for them. I'm saying for me, like I've been able to be okay. No one calls me at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, unless they're dying or they have an emergency. So I don't feel abused. I feel like people respect my time and I respect people and I just want to be me. I still want to stay me.
Peter, thank you so much for sharing your journey and sharing your story. And thank you for being a guest on this podcast.
Thank you so much, Debbie. It's been good talking.
If you would like further details about Peter and the Ark Church, then please follow the links in the show notes.